Hello people, welcome to the return of my personal channel. Yes, I'm bringing back Because Video Games in 2017, but I'm trying to keep it a bit more casual. If you care about any of that stuff, stick around to the end of the video, I'll get to that. But it wouldn't be a Star Wars movie releasing without me running my mouth about it. And a lot of you guys have asked, and I have so much to say about Rogue One, because I've seen it 3 times now, and I think I'm finally ready to talk about it. I'm sorry it took a while, but as always, I have to process these things. I am going to talk about spoilers, 100%. Up and down the wazoo. Most of you who care have probably seen it. If you haven't, go watch it, I guess, because as much as they say, oh, you know what's going to happen, it's still nice to be surprised at some of the stuff that's in store, at least for me personally. So just starting off with the bat, Rogue One is not my favorite Star Wars movie. It's not. People are saying that it's as good as Empire Strikes Back, and it's like right up there, the second best movie. I don't think so by a long shot. But I do think it was good. I don't think it was great, but I think it was good. What I think it did really well was expanding the universe. Basically going into this movie, what I really wanted, and I was super hyped about, was the fact that it was a Star Wars story. You know, growing up reading the expanded universe and stuff like that, I'm used to this stuff. I'm like, all right, cool, new stories, new planets, no big deal, lay it on me. But with Rogue One, the fact that it was attached to the main plot and how they get the plans for the Death Star is also interesting, but also I think what held the movie back and what kept me from really, really enjoying it and where some of the problems in the writing and the structure may have stemmed. Now, I'm not going to get into all that deeply with the movie reviewer stuff, but first things first, Jyn Erso thought she was boring. Sorry. I'm starting off with the negative stuff with this movie, but she didn't do it for me at all. Felicity Jones, top 5 hottest girls of all time, I'd say. But I just didn't really give too much of a damn. I will say Maz Mikkelsen is so cool, and I want to see him in every movie ever. And I think Cassian Andor was probably my favorite character next to, obviously, K2SO, who was fantastic. But the real world building and the expansion of Star Wars is what I really signed up for, and I got a lot of that. And there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. You see Jedha, the planet that gives a little bit more of a basis to the Jedi, who I have always liked to remain a bit more ambiguous. And it's funny because a lot of the stuff in the setup of the temples and the settings is really reminiscent of some Sith ruin stuff. But besides that, the fact that the movie jumps around so quickly in the beginning from planet to planet, it's almost a bit borderline nonsense. Some of the stuff, some of the action set pieces were really, really exciting. All the shootouts were great while feeling real and gritty and more darker than a normal Star Wars movie. They still managed to keep the feel of Star Wars. Stormtroopers getting shot, the same types of sound effects. You really get that vibe. I do think with this movie, and I know Star Wars is made up of influences and ideas and political beliefs and stuff like that, but I thought it wore some of the influences on its sleeve a little bit too much. The fact that essentially the more radical rebel attacks in Jedha were by guys wearing headscarves running around, like, it was very much a stereotype. It was cool the way it was like the flip side. It was like they were actually the good guys fighting the Stormtroopers. It just looked like real life, and I didn't want it to look like real life. Not only that, but also the final battle on Scarif, a lot of the soldiers just looked like Vietnam soldiers for no reason. Gareth Edwards, we get it. You really like Platoon and Apocalypse Now and stuff, but I thought that was a bit much. However, that final battle on Scarif was really, really cool. I think, honestly, some of the aerial stuff, the space battles, is probably one of the better aerial battles in Star Wars movies, because it was really freaking exciting, and like Force Awakens, it managed to really retain that old school feel, but it just felt more necessary and urgent this time around, especially with what the stakes were with the plans of the Death Star. But you probably heard a lot about it, and honestly, the thing that bothered me the most in this movie, and I don't want to be a Star Wars snob, I think I am a little bit of a Star Wars snob. I mean, you guys probably know that by now. I'm very, very particular with all of the stuff they do with these new movies, because honestly, when I was growing up, it was all I had. Ultimately, I think what Rogue One accomplishes, at least in my mind, is it convinces me that I do want more spin-off Star Wars movies, but only if they are absolutely not connected to the main story in any way, like the Skywalker saga, etc. That's what really was jamming me up here. It was just some of the references I felt were a little bit too on the nose. It was almost distracting and kind of obnoxious. You know, when they bump into the guys from the original Star Wars cantina on the street, I was like, fucking really? The R2-D2 C-3PO one I thought was fine because it makes sense because they're there. Also, Bail Organa coming in. I fucking love that guy. I love Jimmy Smits as Bail Organa, and that stuff was really good. I really like that. And the way it built up Vader and stuff like that, I am totally down with, but it was really the ending that I was just like, oh, you didn't have to do that. There's something about subtlety that I think I like in movies, and it was what kind of the ending of Rogue One sorely, sorely lacked. The amount of times, okay, Jimmy Smits said, I know someone who could do that. I trust her with my life. All right, good. I know. That's Princess Leia. We're good. I know. You know, most people know. Or also, by the end, okay, they get the Death Star plans. Boom. Go ahead. You're good. We know what happens next. No, we actually have to see the handoff point with Princess Leia, who's not even real. She's a robot. She's Clue from Tron with a CGI face. I thought that was a bit much. On the flip side, though, I did like Tarkin. Seeing Tarkin in this movie, and then when he popped up more than one scene, and I was like, all right, he's a main character. Fuck yeah. I'm kind of stumbling over my processes here. Like, I don't want it to sound like I didn't like the movie, because I did. I just have a lot to say about it, you know? I do think it was cool with the main characters killing them off in the end. I thought that was really ballsy. The highlights for me was definitely Chinese actor. I think it was Donnie Yen as Chirrut Imwe, the Force-sensitive guy. He was incredible. The actor is insanely charismatic. I loved him. I wish we got more of him. And his scenes whacking stormtroopers' helmets and shattering the glass, I thought that was really fun. And it was also very different from what I would have expected from a Star Wars movie, but it's cool to see Force-sensitive people kicking ass. And I guess I really liked seeing the equivalent of a Grand Admiral on screen. Krennic was really cool just because he's typical, predictable Imperial asshole. He just sucks. I think what Star Wars did, or what Rogue One did, is kind of touch upon a lot of the, sometimes you can go too far in the rebellion to achieve your cause, which was really cool with Saw Gerrera, who I liked getting more to know him and just kind of fitting in with Rebels and the Clone Wars. I'm so down with that. I'm so hyped he's going to be in Clone Wars next season. I like Cassian Andor and Jyn Erso dying on the beach at the end. I thought that was really cool. It reminded me of the scene from Watchmen, the classic scene of the characters embracing from the nuclear blast. That was really cool. And while for me it did lessen it, that the fact that it led off directly to A New Hope and tied in so directly, I also at the same side thought it was completely brilliant how they worked this in and how they explained subtle things here and there that now make A New Hope deeper and richer and make more sense, you know? I really like that, but I think what excited me the most, of course, you know, was Darth Vader. Now, his first appearance, I flipped the fuck out because I think they gave him a castle. They gave him a castle like he had in EU and from some of Macquarie's original concept art. I thought that was really cool. It's not on an acid rain planet. I think it was Verjune. But now it looks like it's kind of on Mustafar. It seems a little bit too on the nose, at least for my liking. Personally, to me, at least out on the distance, it kind of looked like Sullust a little bit, the planet you may have recognized from Star Wars Battlefront. Am I getting a little too deep for you here? James Earl Jones' voice wasn't quite right. Something in the modulation, how do you fuck that up? It just sounded like a black dude behind a microphone. That was it. It just didn't feel enough like Darth Vader. However, the scene with him and Krennic was still incredible. You see Darth Vader taking care of his psoriasis in a Bacta-tank. Very, very, very cool. He's got Imperial guards there, which was a little weird because I like to think that Darth Vader does that stuff completely alone in solitude. But hey, I'll take it. It was really cool to see that on screen, and that whole scene was pretty incredible, except for the little Vader pun, even though I didn't hate it. Some people really didn't like it. I thought it was fine. But really what it's all about was one of the final scenes in the movie, the scene where Vader goes ham, quote unquote. This was the thing I really went to see the movie for. This is what I signed up for. This is one of the first rumors I heard from Rogue One, so I was all on board, and I was like, is this still going to happen in this movie? And sure enough, it does. Incredibly well. Horrifying, terrifying, real scary Darth Vader in full Darth Vader form. The Darth Vader you hear about, the legend of Darth Vader, the reason so many rebels are afraid of him, the reason so many Imperials are afraid of him, was this singular scene. Vader in top form, really, really cool. The way it starts with the darkness and then the lightsaber. There's something to be said about these new Star Wars movies and the sound design behind the lightsaber, because the way that thing cuts, it feels good. Sounds good. But he's just like, the music's insane. He's not moving super fast, but he's still kicking ass. He's basically exactly how he should be. And that scene could have went on for 5 minutes, but I'm glad it didn't outstay its welcome because it was pure fucking Star Wars art. Oh my god, like that's gonna be the scene, like how you rewind over and over again. I could tell while I was watching it, I was basically like the Vince McMahon gif the whole time during that scene. And then you get that like establishing hero shot of him just fucking standing there and the fucking Corvette's flying away. I'm in. That's what I want. That's the Star Wars I want. Just the crazy shit right there. I would have been good with just that because, okay, there it is. There's the plans to the Death Star. Now you know Darth Vader is going to pursue them immediately, which is really cool because you see Princess Leia. Now they show her back. Boom. Cut to black. Would have been great. No, they show her face, which is a little weird. But regardless, I thought it was cool. It was a fun time. It was a good Star Wars adventure because basically most Star Wars adventures in EU and expanded stuff always give you a core band of characters. Like there's always a droid, there's always a couple of different types of heroes, and I thought that did this well while kind of writing its way around the Star Wars lore. That was pretty brilliant. It was just some of the fan service for me was a bit too much, but other than that, I thought it was solid as hell. This is a good movie, and I think it's a sign of good things to come, although I'm still really worried about the spin-off Han Solo movie. God damn it. I don't know. But let's talk about this stuff down in the comments. Are you down with the Darth Vader scene? Was that your favorite scene of the whole movie? What was your favorite scene of the movie? And if you have stuck around, I am bringing back Because of Video Games in 2017. The amount of people who have asked and who have actually cared has me really hyped. And I want to just set it up in a way so I can do my game rank stuff and then just kind of turn on the camera and keep running my map. And just keep running my mouth for this channel. So if you guys are cool with this, some sort of setting, I'll make my desk look a little bit more exciting, I promise. But this is basically what's coming. More of me, I guess, just getting my thoughts out there. I'm looking forward to it because I've honestly been kind of going crazy without doing this. But you guys know the deal. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for having my back. And I will see you in 2017.